What is up, guys? It's Luca here, and first off, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. With the 14 days of Fortnite upon us, there's a lot of gaming to be had in the holiday season because, usually people are off of work at this time. Anyways, getting right to the video, I wanted to talk about the Sword of Power, the Infinity Blade. And why? I want to talk about, was it really overpowered? Did it have some balance? Were there proper counters to it? And what this means for the future of mythic items in Fortnite, because Epic Games definitely wants to have these mythic items in the base game, not a limited time mode. What did you guys think of the sword? Was it overpowered? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you love using it? And was it a pain to just get hit by it? Was it a pain to have the sword pretty much stabbed up your butt? Let me know in the comments below. And to start the video, let's look at this tweet by Epic Games. So this is actually when the sword was taken out of the game, just a few days ago actually. They say, hey folks, we messed up and rolled out the Infinity Blade overpowered / without good counters, especially in the endgame. The Infinity Blade has been vaulted and we are reevaluating our approach to mythic items. Thanks for calling out on this. So, as you know, all of the pros and the non-pros alike, they kinda didn't like how the Infinity Blade pretty much changed the entire endgame, or the game itself. Changed the whole pacing of the game because it is an item that is completely different in terms of use case, in terms of how people react to it, compared to the other items in the game. And yeah, it was pretty much not balanced, at least that's how a lot of people saw it. So, moving on, if you guys had a chance to use the Infinity Blade, you know that the Infinity Blade gives you more shield, makes you run faster. I know it makes you run faster, right? Lets you do this jumpy attack that destroys buildings and pretty much anything, and has a really wide sweep, meaning that if you stand next to it, you're pretty much dead. Like 75 damage a hit, that's like 2 or 3 hits, you're dead. Pretty much if you're in a square around the Infinity Blade, you're gonna get hit by that and you're gonna get screwed pretty much, right? So it is a very powerful weapon. It is a mythic weapon. They want it to be a step above legendary. So what were the counters for this? As all of you may know, the easiest way to kill a guy with the Infinity Blade is to get him when he's at his most vulnerable, which is when he's kind of launching himself into the air and landing, because at that point, he cannot build, he cannot move. He is completely vulnerable to headshots, to any kind of form of fire. That was how you get him. I mean, overwhelming firepower on him would pretty much kill the Infinity Blade wielder, right? But that doesn't happen often, and pretty much this kind of window for you to attack him was when he was vulnerable during that period. And of course, this varies greatly depending on what game mode you're playing. If you're playing solo, you're pretty much 1v1 with the guy with the blade, and it's going to be very difficult for you, right? Especially if he's whacking away at you and you're trying to build on top of him, but he can hit you from all sides and destroy your structures pretty much very easily, right? So in duos and squad, the Infinity Blade user, at least in my experience, tends to charge ahead of his teammates, and when he does that, he kind of leaves himself vulnerable to like the enemy duo or enemy squad's like overwhelming firepower on him. And that is like the Infinity Blade's biggest weakness, is if he's taking too much damage from all sides, he can only focus on one guy while other guys are just free to kind of take pot shots at him, right? It was balanced in the sense that if it was like 2v1 or 3v1 or 4v1, it would be very, very balanced. But of course, if the Infinity Blade user is playing in duos or squad, he has his entire team to back him up, right? I mean, talking about advantages and disadvantages aside, I mean, I'm sure you guys have used the blade itself and have gone up against it. This brings us to the end game. Now, the reason why a lot of people complain about this is because it is a big end game changer. You know, the regen, the double health and experience, and the maneuverability. Because with the Infinity Blade, you can always get to the circle on time. You can always reposition yourself, which brings me to my next point. You know, a lot of people said maybe balloons were the counter to the Infinity Blade because, or planes even, because it couldn't really get to them easily. And it's true, but people didn't see it as like a very hard counter. Because that means you'd always have to have balloons at the end game, you'd always have to have planes, there weren't really that many options. And Epic Games adding all these new cool items in the game, they want to give people options, that's what they said. Back like a couple of seasons ago, they add all these cool items to give people options to play the game, to make sure not one kit was like the kit to have, right? And what does this mean for the future of mythic items? Because Epic Games, they do want to have mythic items in the game, a step above legendary, something rare, the rarest thing you can think of. And how would mythic items affect the game, right? They want it to be fun, for sure. They want it to be not overpowered, but powerful in the sense that you have to give up something to use it. Because, you know, with the sword, you drop all your items, everything, just to wield that sword, right? And so, like many of the items in the game, it becomes a challenge of you'd have to give up, let's say, the ability to heal, the ability to use items for this really cool item. But what kind of mythic items will you think they'll add in the game? Would it be just regular items but a step above? Instead of the Infinity Blade, would there be something like the Infinity Jetpack that lets you move around and stuff like that? you know, there's a lot of possibilities for sure, but then there's also the question of balance, because it's not a limited time mode, and actually Fortnite is still in early access, isn't it? So it's not like they're gonna be any like beta servers or the, you know, testing servers. And in terms of future mythic items, what are the counters to them? The way I see it, the things that you give up as a con, that should be sort of like almost the counter to that. What I mean by that is, in terms of the sword, because you give up all these items that you could use, you're pretty much limited to what you can do with the sword, which is pretty good. It's a pretty good kit. It's pretty fun. But then again, the counter to it is if you're pretty much if you're taking too much periodic damage, if you're taking too much, you know, little taps and little binks and hits from all sides, you can't heal, right? And if you're alone, that's very difficult. And how is that going to work in future mythic items, right? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this. I hope this got your noggin thinking a little bit about what the future of the game and about the kind of things you have to look out for when they add new items and how you can use the current items you have to counter them and what you can do to make sure you don't get screwed over by the new items or by mythic items, whatever. What are some cool mythic items that could come out in the game? Could there be mythic vehicles? Wouldn't that be super cool? Thank you guys again so much for watching. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you love it, subscribe. I love that saying. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'll see you around.